You're listening to episode 163 of the Master Your Mind, Business, and Life podcast. If you're rocking a side hustle while working a 9-to-5, or if you're trying to get your newly developed business off the ground, this one's for you. Today's guest is Janet Kafadar, a career exit strategist and fellow podcaster. She helps Black women and women of color wanting to escape their careers to build an impact-driven online coaching business. Janet is a busy mom of 3 kids under 9, a British expat living in Australia, and is on a mission to help Black, interracial, and women of color rise up and be seen and help them build impact-driven online coaching businesses that will allow them to leave a legacy for themselves and their families. Before we meet Janet, let me share a review of the week. This one comes from Mavi1022 on Apple Podcasts, and it reads, I love Lauren's energy, and the chemistry she shares with her guests is so genuine. I thoroughly enjoyed listening to her episodes. Highly recommend to those looking to make a difference in their life and business. This review made my day. Your reviews help get the show rated higher on platforms such as Apple Podcasts, which helps more people find the show, and of course that means together, we help more people obtain emotional, spiritual, intellectual, and even physical life mastery. Leave your 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you listen from for a chance to have your review featured on the show. Don't forget to share that you're listening by taking a screenshot, sharing it on Instagram or Facebook stories, tag me in it at MindBizLife, and I'll repost it. Now it's time to meet Janet. You know what to do. Tune in, turn it up, let's go.
You're listening to Master Your Mind, Business and Life. Conversations with everyday world shifters, truth seekers, and rule breakers. Here's your host, Lauren Smith.
Hey, Janet, welcome to the show. I have been looking forward to our conversation. I can't even express how much.
Oh, really? Yay!
Yes!
Thank you so much for having me.
You are just like doing the dang thing because you're doing something that I really admire. And it's something that I could have used at one point in my life. You're helping women rise up and step into their power by leaving their 9-to-5s and leaning into the entrepreneurship, what I just think is so amazing. But I just know that there's got to be a good story about how you yourself became a coach. Is it safe to assume that you had a 9-to-5 once upon a time that you had to leave too?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yes. I got stories for days. But yes, I was working a 9-to-5. But let me back up. Like it's a long story, but I'll try and give the cliff notes. So I've been in business for about 7 years now. 7+ years now. And it really started with my son, who is now 8 years old. Oh my God, he's not a baby anymore. He was 8 years old. It started way back when he was really tiny. And I wanted to start a business. I was kind of in this place of, I was working for a management consultancy, and they were doing great work and worked a lot with government departments here in Canberra, Australia. And what I was finding is, I was like, oh my goodness, like she was killing it. Like it was a small team of us. I don't know, they must have been making millions each year. Must have been. And I was like, I want her life.
Right?
It was like, she, had the amazing car. They went skiing in France and the Alps for the rest of the winter, and I was like, I want that. Why is she doing it and I'm getting paid peanuts here? There's something broken.
Right, for sure.
And so, and that kind of planted the seed in me. And then I fell pregnant with my son. And then as soon as I had him, I was like, okay, I can't go back and work for someone, the same hours, 50, 60 plus hours a week. It's like busted. I can't do that. So anyway, I had him. Thought, well, let me leverage the skills that I've got. I started a VA business, and that was okay until I completely burnt myself. I was trying to grow a baby and, look after a baby and a baby business at the same time.
Ooh, yeah.
And so, completely burnt myself out there. I was like, this is not for me. This is not what I want to do. Anyway, I fell pregnant again with my daughter. Aww. So I have 3 kids under 9. So my son and my daughter are very close in age, but in that time I did go back to work and find another job, and was kind of, what's my purpose? You know, one of those like, what am I supposed to be doing with my life?
Yes,
kind of
just
moments.
hit that moment, where you're just like, oh, show me the way.
Exactly. I can't believe this is what I'm doing. So is so like, and you know, if there was ever a movie about an entrepreneur's journey, it's one of those moments where they're like, what am I doing with my life? It's like raining outside, and it was just like that. I'm sitting there on the sofa, I'm like, oh, I hate this. And I came across a Brendan Burchard video, and I can't for the life of me find that video. It's like it never existed. It's like
it existed in just for you.
Yes, just at that time. And it's just like, oh, it gives me chills every time I think about it. And so he's like, you've got to work with what you've got, use your purpose, you'll find it, just keep moving forward. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. And anyway, I knew that I had to start my own business. I knew that I had to be there for my babies. I knew that just doing this, working 9 to 5 wasn't going to work. I had bosses that, were so demanding, and I was like, I can't do this. In the end, I decided to leverage the skills that I'd already developed over my years and years of working in different organizations, degree in business and marketing, and decided to start an agency. So I realized there was a whole industry of people who were looking to create online courses and all of that stuff. This is like a way back when. This is like, I don't know, what, 2004? So it's a little bit rustier than it looks now. That whole landscape. So I actually created an agency helping people create and set up their online courses, helping them with the curriculum side of things, helping them with the tech side of things. And that's how my business was born. I had one offer, rinse and repeat. I used it for like 4 years.
Wow.
and that's how it was born. It was amazing until I completely fell out of love with it and realized, like, I don't want to do this forever. It's not lighting me up. Like, I was sitting there and I had a team behind me and they were pretty much handling everything and all of the clients. And I was like, this is boring.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I'm done. What's next?
Exactly. It was that kind of, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. So in the end, I was kind of, whilst I was working in the background, so as the CEO, didn't necessarily have to do as much. So in the background, I was kind of connecting with my audience, people on my email list who weren't necessarily my clients, our clients that I worked with, and finding out where they were. And they were all women who were just like me when I was starting out, but they were all thinking that, the solution to them leaving their job and leaving their 9 to 5 was actually creating a course. And I was like, oh, hell no. That's not what you need. God, no. No, I speak to, the people that I was working with who had huge businesses and huge organizations and SMEs. You don't need a course. Like, that's not what you need. And that's how my coaching business was born. It's kind of been going for the last 2 years, but it's been a journey. It's definitely been an evolution.
Yeah, there is so much I want to pick apart right now. Where do I want to start? Okay, so I want to start first with motherhood, because I think that drive that you've just already displayed of it shows that you just become a different person through motherhood. You're like, it's almost like what you were tolerating. I can't tolerate that anymore. I have something. Yeah, I have something bigger in my life now, and I got to do bigger things. It almost challenges you and allows you to step up in life.
Yes.
And it feels like you just totally went for it. You're just yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly.
I got
exactly
this.
Right.
I got
exactly
this.
Right.
Yeah, but I love that you did that, and I love that you're a mom of 3. So cool.
Yeah.
And you said they're all under the age of 9?
9, yeah. So 8, 7, and 4.
Okay, so this is really important too, because I think sometimes when it comes to motherhood and parenthood in general, because I know there's a lot of men out there who are in the same position, and you're just in this mindset of well, I can't really leave my job because it's so dependable. I know my paycheck is coming
Yeah.
in every week. It's
Yeah.
reliable. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, like you're burning yourself out for someone
Mm.
else. You're burning yourself out for a measly paycheck while you're watching your boss,
Yeah.
like live the life. So like
Yes, I
how
know.
right. Like you're just
It's
like,
so
dang.
awful.
And you're having, you can see it. You're like, that can be me. But how do you
Yeah.
bridge that gap of like building that confidence or knowing really like when it is time to step away?
I think you'll know inside of you. There will be situations that arise, and there will always be that niggling feeling I'm meant to be doing something, or I'm meant for something more, or I should be doing something, or you're just completely disconnected from your job right now, your career. And that niggling feeling just didn't go away for me. Like it would
Mhm.
go and I'd be like, oh well, I can't really do anything about it now, fallen pregnant with my son, no, it's all good, blah blah blah. I'll leave it until later. And I think it's that it just didn't go away. It kept coming back. And like that thought, like, oh, what should I do? And then things will pop up in my sphere, whatever it is, ideas. At first it was to create that VA business. And I was like, oh, okay, let me see what that's about and see how it works. And so that's what I did. And it's there won't be a perfect time. And I think that's one of the things to remember, that there'll never
Mm,
be a perfect time to potentially leave a job. And I'm not saying by any means that you need to jump ship and hand in your notice and then go along
yeah.
and then just, no, I'm out now. Ta-da. No,
Yeah.
that's risky. It's a bad move.
Yeah.
Um, but I think it's a matter of just figuring out over time, testing things out, seeing what works for you, tapping into as well, which is so important. I think a lot of people underestimate this. Really leverage your skills from your
Mhm.
career, from the work that you've already been doing for years. Use that to your advantage. Don't go and think, oh, it needs to be something completely different. Yeah, maybe down the track it might be, but for the time being, you can use your skills very much like I did. So I used my skills in education and training and development and all of that kind of stuff to be able to, which is what I did at the management consultancy, working at that firm, and help create courses for people and training programs and all of
Right.
that stuff. So it just worked in my favor. I just used what I already had, but I just didn't want to do it anymore. It just didn't excite me. I was bored.
Yeah.
I was over it.
And then you give yourself the permission to do something different because
Yeah.
man, I've gotten to that, and sometimes it feels almost like you hit a level of mastery, like where you're like,
Yes.
okay. It's like
Yeah. There
I've
wasn't a challenge anymore.
yes, and for people who, I mean, I think to grow in general, we just have to
Mm.
be challenged, and then
Yes.
when you're no longer challenged, then you're like, well, it's not that it's below me, I've just graduated.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Graduated. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah, I think I just had hit that point, and I realized, out of my email list, which is ridiculous. It's like 2,000 people or something. It's like, well, for me, that's a lot, but
Yeah. No, I
but
agree. Yeah.
yeah, and they were all saying the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I've been trying at this for some time. I don't know what to do. I want to create a course. And I just got them all on a group, like Q&A call. I was like, tell me where you're at. Like, let's chat. What's going on.
Yeah.
And that was it. And that's pretty much how my coaching business was born. And I got my first few clients from there. And I was like, well, I'll just coach you one-on-one and let's just see how it goes from there. So yeah, it's like almost like a beautiful process because it just happened really organically.
Mm.
But yeah, when I was in that transition period, I was like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Throwing away, that business and saying goodbye to everyone and letting my clients know, like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. And it's like a really, really hard experience. You
Yeah.
build something up, you work on something for so long, you get it so far, you get the processes down, systems, all of that stuff, team members, everyone on board, all of that stuff. And then you're like, I'm bored now. And
Yeah.
then you're like, see ya, I'm out. And so yeah, it was tough, and it was like a big learning process for me as well.
For sure.
All those imposter syndrome stuff, who am I to do this? What am I doing? I'm throwing it away. This is terrible. But really, it's just, limiting beliefs and self-talk.
Oh yeah. And they're dangerous. They are dangerous to that growth. Let's talk exit strategies for a moment, because I think part of graduating, as we just said, is we always have to level up. And sometimes we can realize that the job that we're in, the career we're in is just not for us. And like you said, we can find ourselves disconnecting, and that can cause us to either A, get pushed out of a job by being fired, or maybe you just get so sick of it, you're just like, later, and just dip out. But so instead of being pushed or dragged, an exit strategy just kind of sounds like an ideal solution. Will you break down what an exit strategy entails and how you can put it to action?
Yes, absolutely. So an exit strategy is really actually coming up with a plan, actual plan, to essentially leave your job. And so the way in which I work with my clients, and we have to know what your numbers are. It all starts with your numbers. So as in how much you're making at the moment and how much you want to be making. That's all well and good, but what you actually want to take home, that's, not including taxes or anything like that, how much you actually want to take home. And then, then we can figure out what the taxes and all of that stuff is, and expenses, etc. after that. But we need to figure out what that number is. And the issue that I found over the years is that my clients or people tend to just pick a number, and it's easy enough. If you're on social media long enough, people say you want to have a 5K month or 10K month or whatever it is. But I feel that just doesn't apply, because you need to be connected to that number, so it actually means something to you. If it's 4,850, that it's that amount of money, because it's got to pay for X, Y, Z, school fees, all of that stuff. You're emotionally connected to that number, and it means something. So when you go out to eventually go out and create your offer or coaching package or service or whatever it is, that you've got to price it accordingly so that it can help you reach your goals. And so with that number, at least then you're able to plan out over the time whilst you're still working your day job, and say, okay, right, well, I might not make that amount straight away, but even if I make 1,000 this month, or I make 2,000 next month, or 3,000, or whatever it is, then what your goals are, and what the actual number is that you're looking towards. And so the other part of the exit strategy as well is making sure that the business that you want to create, or the thing that you want to pursue, is not necessarily the thing that you're starting with right now. just like I did. It's not the thing you're starting with now. Just make it be something just to move the needle, just to get started. If you're great at writing copy, or you're a great writer, why don't you harness using your writing skills? If you're great at creating presentations, I had a client once who was killer at creating presentations, and she didn't see the value in her work. And so we were working together. I said, let's do a test. I want you to create an account up on Fiverr, right? Take some of the work that you have done, obviously past work that you can share, and I want you to just put it out there, right? Put it up on Fiverr. You're creating a whole new profile. She got 5 new gigs within about 2 weeks.
Wow.
And I just did it I wanted her to do it so she could see the value in what she's doing. Because she, when you're so good at something, you don't recognize it. You're like, oh, it's just as easy. It's like, oh, I can do it in no time. But she was able to get it, oh, people pay for this?
Yes.
See, I get it. Yes, they do, because other people are really bad at it. So she was able to at least move the needle and get started there. She's got off to do other amazing things now, but that was the thing that she started with. And it helped her kind of validate and see that, people are paying for this. People actually want this service. And then she was able to move on from there and do other amazing things. But that's what I mean. Start with what you already know how to do. It doesn't need to be forever. What the business that you start now, won't be the business that you have 3 months, 6 months, 12 months down the line. It'll be completely different, but you just have to start.
Ooh,
That's really part of my exit strategy.
Yeah, no, I like that advice a lot. And I like that you start with what you really want to make, because I think that's an interesting way of just making sure then that everything else kind of sprouts from that, because price is something that a lot of people get tripped up on. So how do you best price your products and services then? How does that all feed together?
So you have to do your research for a start, and you have to know who you are marketing to or who you're selling your services to. So within any industry, there is, let's take cars, for example. I'm actually looking for a new car, so this is top of mind. So take cars, for example. You have the top of the, within one, let's say Volkswagen, for example, there's within the one range of car, there's the like premium souped up sports something XR, blah, 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 with all the bells and whistles. And within that same range, that same car, there's like the basic version, that's like really, really basic. And then you have the mid of the line. And I kind of think and they all three of them, very different prices. You can go from 100 and something thousand down to the basic being 25 or whatever it is.
Right.
And so when you think about it, all three of those cars, they're all the same car. They're all slightly different. And you think about it, they're all for a slightly different person. So that's how you need to think about your pricing as well. So even if you have an offer that is for, let's say you're a copywriter or you're great at writing copy, there's someone that's maybe just starting out that may need some help. Maybe they won't be able to afford you, but maybe you can actually just work alongside them, help give them some tips. Then there'll be the entrepreneurs or people who are like, I'm not doing this. I need to hand it over to someone else. And then you'll have maybe the bigger organizations who are like, oh, you know what? We just need to have a copywriter on retainer, and we're happy to pay $3,000 a month for that. It's that kind of thing. So you've got to know who you're talking to, what their services are and what they're selling and how much value it is. So I know it's hard I can't actually pull out like a magic formula. I'd love to be able to, but understanding who they are and what their services are and how they work is how you can price your services. Because if you undercharge for your services, it just won't work. It just doesn't come together. Oh, I can give you an example if you want.
Yes. Yes. I love examples. Let's go for it.
So I was on a coaching call with my client last night. So she makes custom jewelry, amazing jewelry. And so she said that she got a DM from a fashion designer in her DMs who wanted a custom piece made for him so that he could wear it at Fashion Week. But she didn't get the message in time, didn't get his measurements, wasn't able to do it and all of that stuff. And so she has an offer that we've created and put together. It's called a Build Your Bracelet experience. So it's like a VIP day. People come in and chat with her. Oh, now it's done virtually. And they're able to, get a whole feel for what they want it to look like. It's amazing. And so she has it priced at like $497 or something like that. And I've been telling her, like, it's too low. And so I said to her on our call, I said, well, if you tell this designer now that's the VIP experience is $497, he's going to laugh and say, what's wrong with it? Why is it that cheap? Do you see, like, there's a disconnect in the person that you're talking to and who you're pricing your services to. So she does have a community at the moment who very much, they love her. It's such a loyal tribe, but they're more individuals. But if she's selling that same service to designers or to brands or influencers, they were like, oh yeah, okay, $1,000, yeah, no problem.
Right.
So that's why it's really important. I feel like I've rambled for ages there.
No, I love that, because it really just sounds like you need to meet them where they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's critical, and we overlook that.
Yes.
A lot. And yet we're greeted with it all the time. Like, even if you go to Chick-fil-A, you can get the meal or just a sandwich.
That's right.
They give you a choice there. And you can say, well, I have the $8, or heck no, I'm just going with the $4 sandwich today. Exactly. So they're meeting you where you are. And it's basic, but yet we really overlook it.
We overlook it. every time.
Is there
Yeah.
anything else that a lot of people overlook when it comes to just really getting business off the ground and going?
I think it's confidence, bar
Mm.
none. It's the confidence to step out and actually, back yourself. That's the scariest thing. But
Ooh.
you can read all the blog posts, you can watch all the webinars, you can download all the freebies, watch all the YouTube videos. But at the end of the day, if you're building a business, it really comes down to you and you saying, you know what? I actually don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out.
Yes.
I am going to figure it out. I'm going to get some help too, because I believe that I can do it. And you have to have that belief. And that's there's, millions of people out there who think, oh, I can build a business, but there's only very few that succeed. And it's the ones that actually have the ones to stick with it when it's really, really rough and when it's really hard, and just think, oh, you know what, I've got to keep going because I know that I can do this. And that's what you need to have, and that kind of level of confidence and faith in yourself and trust that I will figure it out. I'm smart enough. I can do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, it's a
I
lot
think
of
that's so
building.
important.
Yeah, a lot of building yourself up. And like sometimes that confidence too is they can be in the smallest of wins. I think sometimes,
Yeah.
and I know I'm so guilty of this, like something very small will happen and I don't celebrate it big enough.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and it's like, and I feel like when you're celebrating something, I mean, just think of that feeling like when it's your birthday and you're like,
Yes.
hey, everyone's like, happy birthday. You're like, it's my birthday.
I
Like,
know.
yeah, it's like, it's a whole mood. And like, imagine if we absorb that, like
Mm-hmm.
when our, I don't know, for me, like a dream podcast guest, like, I don't know, let's say like Brene Brown, right? Like
Yeah. Oh my
she,
God. Yes.
right? Like she just like slides into my DMs and she's like, hey, I'm like, oh, I'm going to celebrate that win. Like it's like the
Yeah.
biggest day of my life, But because
Exactly.
that in itself, like, is an important piece, it builds that emotional
Mm-hmm.
connection to what you're
Yes.
doing.
Exactly. All of those small wins. And I tell my clients as well, I'm like, we have to, every week we celebrate, and
Mm,
we have to celebrate, even if it's just, you could have been in a funk for the rest of the week, most of the week, but you still managed to send out one email to connect with someone. And you're like,
yeah.
I did it. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, you did it. It's those incremental wins and incremental steps that will help take you forward. And I think that's what a lot of people forget, that, oh, it happens overnight. No, it doesn't. who
Right.
who told you that? What, they're like, this complete lie. I always think of musicians, and I always give this example to my clients, to my community. Think of musicians. Think of, I don't know, I can't even, Lady Gaga, for example. Okay, so I don't know how long she's kind of burst on the scene, what, 12 years ago, something like that. And I remember seeing her, I was still in London then, I haven't moved here to Australia, so it must have been about 12 years ago. I remember seeing a video of her. I was like, oh my goodness, that girl's amazing. And so she blew up and won, song after another. But I read her story about how she started. And I even remember watching a show way back when, and there was like a small snippet of her, like, and it said her name. I was like, oh, Lady Gaga. Oh, cool. But
Mm,
she had been at it for years before we knew about her 12 years ago, so for the longest time, in small bars, in small clubs, all of this stuff before she kind of burst on the scene. And that's how it is. You work on something day after day, show up, do small engagements, whatever it is, engaging with people, and then that win will come. It's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. So yeah,
mm.
I truly believe that.
Yeah, and sometimes I think like we don't give ourselves enough grace to get to that point. I mean,
Yes.
as moms, like we,
Oh God.
like we're not like having a baby and being like, okay, now that I've had you, you need to walk and talk and just go ahead and potty train yourself. All now that you're, all but 1 hour old, because we know that that baby has to learn and grow. And
Yes,
it can't start running until it learns how to walk. And before it walks, it
exactly.
crawls. And I think
Mm,
sometimes like we just don't, we we overlook those fundamental parts that we
Yes.
need in business, especially when we're first diving in. Oh,
Yeah.
hello. So many lessons.
So many lessons to
Oh, the
learn. So many things.
lessons.
You could go on for days, but it's so important. It's so important to have those. You don't, because if you think about it really, like, as you know, someone that's starting a business, if you were to start it and then instantly, let's say, I'm saying instantly, but within a month of you actually starting, you made, let's say it rained 10K or whatever it is. I think that that's almost a dangerous game, you know, because you don't know anything. And one, you'll probably blow it all once you get it. And then you won't know how to repeat the same thing. Like, I think it's almost, it's dangerous. And so it does happen for some people, but the people that say, you know, out on these streets, who say that, I think are lying. They're lying. It didn't happen. It's, years behind that and years in the making to get to that point. So I wish people were more honest.
Yeah,
That
for
stuff.
sure, for sure. And I know for a lot of people, you know, who start with a side hustle, right? Like you kind of, you're like, I have to keep my job, but I also have one foot into my side hustle.
Yeah.
I want to use the word balance very sparingly, but when you're in that flow of working your 9 to 5, how do you balance, or we'll say create the time to work on your side hustle? Because I remember those days, it's exhausting to go from a 9 to 5.
God.
And then especially
Yes.
if you have kids, like you can just be like, it's so easy to say, oh, I don't have the time, you know? So how do you kind of get out of that, or how do you make the time for it?
Yeah. So it's a big one, in the sense that when you get to that point of like, all right, well, you know, I've got my side hustle and all that, it becomes, you feel more excited when you're working and doing that than when you're at work. And that's how it needs to feel. Because if it doesn't feel that way, then it's just another thing. You're like, meh, do tomorrow. You know, and you have to be excited, and you have to be, regardless of what it is, even if you're not 100% sure, you have to be excited about it, and you have to be like almost running home to like, but you know, get to work and do something, even if it's not 100% the right thing, whatever that is. But the excitement level and the feeling has to be there, or otherwise it's just a third job that you have, especially if you've got kids already.
Yeah.
And so how do you balance it? Well, my thing is, and what I did is that I said to myself, I'm going to work on something for 20 minutes a day. 20 minutes. Because you actually don't need hours and hours. And it's actually a pure waste of your time.
Straight up.
Especially, yeah, it is. It is. It's a complete waste of your time. But if you said to yourself, and the thing is, like, you don't have to be sitting in front of your computer. You can sit down at your, you know, you can have your phone. We've all got phones. Get your phone out, say, okay, right, darling, to your partner, to your kids, or whatever, you've put them to bed, done the washing, whatever you need to, sit down. You got 20 minutes to do some research about your potential industry as a, you know, life coach in, you know, trauma, or whatever it is, you know, whatever that industry is or that area is. You're going to do 20 minutes of research, set the timer on your phone, 20 minutes of research to understand what other people in your industry are doing. Simple. Day one. And then the next day, maybe you don't even have to do anything the next day. Maybe the day after, then you're going to spend another 20 minutes like, who can I connect with? This is if you're going to be a life coach or something like that. Who can I connect with to who may have my people? Jump on Facebook, or be wary of going on Facebook. Maybe go on Instagram, might be a bit easier on Instagram. Maybe I'll go on to LinkedIn. Maybe I'll just do a quick Google search and set the timer again for 20 minutes. And that's the thing, like that kind of thing will move the needle. And once you're done, you put the phone down and then you go and watch your favorite Netflix show. Like that's the kind of, if you don't get into the whole headspace of like, oh my God, I've got to sit down. I've got to be like physically tapping at the keyboard. You don't actually have to. Like those small, like, planting the seeds moments of what will help you move forward in your business. And then when you get to the point where like, oh, okay, I actually have to sit down, you know how you're coming into the situation. You know what you need to write. You know what your offer needs to look like. You understand people's struggles, you know, because you've done that already before you sat down at the computer. So yeah, that's one way to go about it. I think it's really, really important.
And that's super easy. 20 minutes. I think that 20 minutes with intention is way more powerful than 2 hours of mindlessness where you're just clicking around.
Oh my God.
Don't really have a task. Yesterday, for me alone, I told, before we even start recording, I told you I was in a mode of surrender this week. Like
Yes.
it is literally, anytime I feel a pushback, I have been telling myself, one, the universe is kind and loving. Like I have to tell I'm just like, the universe is kind and loving. And two, surrender, because it has just been that week. And yesterday I sat down and I tried to write. Wasn't working. Like I pull up a program, it kept force closing, and it was like this constant pushback. And I was like, oh, so why am I going to try and work right now? You know, so it was just like, in that moment, I'm going to surrender, because what's going to happen? I'm going to get anxious. I'm going to get mad. Like nothing is going to be productive anyway. So where can I redirect my time to be more productive? And in that moment, I had like 6 loads of laundry to do. I'm not proud. Our dryer broke. Okay. So
oh God.
I was a little backed up, but I'm still not broke. I was like, that's where I can be productive. And then when I came back to the task later, you know, I was just, everything worked better. Like it worked itself out, and I whipped it out so much faster. But it was easier to just, again, surrender in that moment, and then just come back to it.
Come back to it. Yeah.
Like intention is everything.
It so is, and it's so overlooked. Like I think it weaves in, you know, the confidence side of things as well, kind of weaves into that. But being intentional and really sticking to it, if you really mean it and you really do want to eventually leave a job and you actually want to make a go of this side hustle and whatever it is that you're doing, then be focused about it. Don't let it be a wish, because wishes are great, but you know, unless you actually work on them, nothing's going to happen. To take it seriously. And I think that's, you know, a lot of people kind of sit in that place for far too long, waiting for something to magically happen. And so, well, it's not going to magically happen if you haven't done anything. So yeah, that's the clarity is not going to come like, oh, if you actually haven't moved or done anything to find out more about your direction of what you should be doing in the last 6 months. It just doesn't work like that. So.
Yeah, it's like wishing you could win the lottery and never playing the lottery.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, can't wait for the day that I win $1 million from the lottery. Never bought a ticket before, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, we can wish all we want, but until we take that action step of buying the lottery ticket, we don't really have a chance. You know?
Exactly. That's right. Exactly.
Oh my goodness. So you had said something in the beginning of when you're reaching out to people, they were all saying, you know, like, we need to start a course. And you're like, that's not what you need to do. So how do you pick the right business model for designing your success for your business?
Yeah, it's I always say a course is not what you need, because there's so much work that goes into, I take it from me. There's so much work that goes into it. And it's also the fact that you need an audience. You have to have an audience to sell a course. And I think it's easy for people to wrap their heads around it, like, oh, all I need to do is create a course and then I can sell it.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't work like that. Only if you have people that are interested in what you're already talking about, then yes, it will work. But it's lies. Pure and simple. It's just lies. There's no way you can sell a course without an audience. It just doesn't make any sense. No one's going to find you. No one knows who you are. You're the best kept secret right now. And that's the truth. So a course is not what you need. So I always say to my clients, like, really, you can either do one of 3 things. You either provide coaching services, mentoring services, or like consulting. Yeah. Or you offer done for you services. So like service delivery. So like graphic design or web design or anything where you do something and you deliver it for the client, copywriting services, that kind of thing. Or, you know, coaching. And I have a lot, oh my goodness, I have a lot of life coaches in my community. I must like attract them, must radiate. Even though I'm not a life
you have that you have that energy. That's why.
Oh, okay. a lot of life coaches in my life. And so for them, I think also the biggest issue is like they get their certification, like, well, yes, I'm a life coach, what? And then they actually like, oh crap, I need to actually start a business.
Yeah.
Like, what does that, what do you mean?
Mm.
How do I do that? And so, life coaching teaches you how, the certification teaches you how to be a coach, an amazing coach, but actually doesn't teach you about actually having the business. And that's the biggest downside to it there. Anyway,
Yeah.
that neither here nor there. But picking the right business model. So I say either go with one of those 3 or 4 different areas. And the reason that I say that is because it's easy enough for you to go back and leverage your expertise and your knowledge and the skills that you already have to be able to help someone. You're not having to kind of create something new. So like in my case, I just, used my VA skills, used my course design, curriculum design skills as well to be able to create my own agency. And that's what I started with. And so that's what I say to my clients, like, just start there. What can you help someone with? And the issue that people overlook as well is that people probably come to them all the time for advice. All the time, you have that go-to person in your family.
Yeah.
That's always like, if I've got a problem with my kid's skin, I'm gonna go and speak to Aunt blah blah. There's always that person, that you can call out. Like, yeah, they know what cream to use.
Right. Yeah, I gotta call Uncle Jim for my car problems. And
yeah,
then,
exactly.
My mom has the best barbecue sauce recipe ever. Yeah, it's just
that's right.
You just know, right?
You just know. And it's that kind of thing. I can't tell you the amount of conversations I've had with clients and potential clients. They're like, oh my goodness, I'm so sick of giving away my knowledge for free. Like, even my friends and family say to me, oh, we should be charging you for this. And you're like, they're thinking, damn, of course, I don't know how to do that. And that's really the issue. So tap into that. Look at it. What is it that people always ask you? What is it that people always come to you for? And you completely overlook. It's like, oh, it's just simple. I just know. So, and don't disregard that, because people will pay for that. They'll pay for someone to help them with those struggles, to have consults, to understand where they're at. I have a client at the moment who's she works in the OR at the moment as a nurse, and she one of her things is she's a comfort coach for caregivers and also for healthcare workers as well. So what that means is she helps them with all of the stress and the stress levels that they're going through, especially at the moment, and actually understanding how to care and support, themselves, not just the others that they're, caregivers and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Which is amazing, which is so good.
Amazing.
But it's so beautiful. And for her, she's like, people always came to me asking me these questions, and she supported her husband and until he passed away. She was an amazing caregiver and all of that stuff, but she just thought, well, people come to me all the time asking, well, how do I navigate the healthcare system, or what do I need to do here? And so she just started charging for consults. People come to her instead of having to go to a doctor and pay an arm and a leg there, and they'll probably not even get the answer, because she's in that space every single day. She's like, well, I'm just going to charge for it. And she has. And that's how she's gotten started. Now she's putting together a coaching program. But that was her kind of starting point for her.
Yeah.
So, yeah, don't disregard what people always ask you.
Oh, my goodness. It's so simple, too, to just take one moment back and just reflect on what keeps popping up and what have you been ignoring? Like, what are you good at? Yeah. I love it. I love it. Janet, you have just broken everything down in such a simple manner that I can wrap my brain around, and I know our audience can too. And I know they're going to want to connect with you further. Where can they go to do so?
Yes, you can come and find me over at janetkafadar.com, over on my website. Or I also have a podcast as well called The Truth About Show, where I talk about the truths of creating and starting an online business that people don't necessarily talk about. And so, sure, it's just me and very much like this, just chatting. So yeah, that you can go and find me over there, or you can also find me on the socials as well.
Awesome. I'll be sure to link all of that in the episode notes. And I can't wait to check out your podcast now. Like, I'm about to go nerd out on that myself.
Good stuff.
Oh, Janet, it has been a treat speaking with you today. Thank you so much for joining me and sharing so much great advice.
Not a problem. My complete pleasure. Thank you for having me, Lauren.
Janet has such great energy, and I love the mission she is on. I've linked her website and social channels on this week's episode notes, found on mindbizlife.com. Oh, and make sure we're connected too. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at mindbizlife, or you can find me on Pinterest at mindbizlifepodcast. I'll see you back here on Friday for another episode of Fuel Your Life Friday, but until then, remember, every level of life is an opportunity to grow. Be well, my friend.